Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
Yesterday, we talked about saying the slightly truer thing about that small, honest something, as simple as admitting you've been thinking about your grandmother and you miss her today, opens a conversation that a managed answer like "I'm fine" never could. And how that practice is available to you right now with people already in your life in the low stakes moments where the cost of trying it is almost nothing. Today, we talk about what happens when you do try it, because like anything, it doesn't always go the way you hoped, right? And if nobody prepares you for that, the first time it doesn't land the way you expect or the way you think it should, or the way your expectations go, you'll take that as evidence that being open doesn't work, and you'll close back down, and isolation continues or gets worse. And that's the outcome we're trying to avoid. Because again, your body is keeping score on all of this stuff. It actually is slowly but surely like aiding to your physical demise. And it's also not going to build strong relationships with the people around you. So here's an honest telling of what the response landscape looks like. Sometimes when you say this slightly truer thing, the other person kind of meets you there. They're like, they lower their safety margins a little bit as well. And the conversation goes somewhere that neither of you planned. And you both walk away feeling slightly less alone than you did before, which is awesome. And it's so worth pursuing. But it's not guaranteed. It's not even the most common response, especially when you're early in your practice of these kinds of vulnerabilities. More often than not, in the beginning, what you get first is kind of a pause. It's like you broke the matrix in some way. Person got the message, and they've got to recalibrate somehow. They were expecting fine. You gave them something real, and they don't know how to process. If you're rejection sensitive, take a breath. That's not rejection. It's processing. The other person's masking system is encountering something that they didn't prepare for. You've got to let that pause be without rushing to fill it or walking back what you said or adding a joke to cut the tension, because by doing that, you are allowing the other person to move back into their default masking process, or you are diminishing the vulnerability you just expressed. So try not to fill the silence, because it's going to be a little bit longer than you're used to, and it may take a minute. If you don't get that reprocessing phase, sometimes you get is a deflection. The other person hears what you said, they kind of acknowledge it briefly, and then they steer the conversation back to safer ground. For them. They steer the conversation back to safer ground for them. If you're rejection sensitive, that stings a little. But it's worth knowing it's not rejecting you. It's rejecting their own capacity to be present in the moment, and they're masking, deciding, I have no idea what to do with this. This feels unsafe. Yoink, and they split. This is where they are, not where you are. So try not to take anything that you're going to get back as a response necessarily as a thing that you have to take with you and go home. You don't have to take that silence or their deflection as a critique. Sometimes you'll get an abject rejection. Somebody will be visibly uncomfortable. They will feel awkward or make signs that they are feeling awkward. And when that happens and it's genuinely uncomfortable, it's still best to sit there if you can. Be present in the discomfort Acknowledge the discomfort. I'm sorry. My disclosure seems to have made you uncomfortable. And move on. And that's okay too. The more you can acknowledge what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you're feeling with someone in a conversation, the more likely you are going to be able to get to a relationship that can help you both grow. But you have to be very mindful of this, because these types of socialization counter the norms of every day-to-day interaction. In a lot of cases, folks that are very, very good at being manipulative will create these sort of vulnerability opportunities to try and rope you into stuff. And you're used to that on a regular basis. Anybody walking up to you on the street, you're very likely going to be, all your defenses are up. Again, these are the place to start these conversations are with people you trust already. Folks that are close, they're in your inner circle, they're in your social organizations, they're in your, maybe your workplace, they're your fishing buddy, whatever. When you start this process, you're going to get to an increasing level of comfort with having conversations that require emotional content or that have emotional content attached. And that's okay. Let those things happen as they happen. You don't have to, and this is a thing that you know intuitively, you don't have to be comfortable all of the time. Anybody who's lifted weights knows this. The process of lifting weights is, in and of itself, difficult. There's a time between the weight getting from the rested state to that full stretch or that full pump or whatever it is, that distance where it's just suffering when you get to that. But the outcome on the other side of having the physique that you're working towards, that discomfort is a sign that something is happening. A lot of folks chase it, particularly in things like weightlifting. You look for that next day bit of soreness. Understand that conversationally and emotional vulnerability and all of the things that you're going to need to build a team around you that you can use to grow will have some of that kind of discomfort. And it's going to start with the first lift by getting slightly more honest in your answers.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.